Let's go fly. Call the meeting to order. If you care to, please stand for an opening prayer and pledge of allegiance. Mr. Cameron, if you would.
Let's pray. Heavenly Father, thank you for this day, and thank you for this time to get together. Lord, I pray you just be with us tonight and the decisions that we're about to make, and be with this city. And Lord, just tonight, let us just remember the people that have been affected by the tragedies, Lord, in the Houston area that have lost everything, and not lose sight of that. And Lord, I just pray that as a nation, we'll come together and love our neighbor as ourselves and give what we have to that effort. And Lord, I pray for all the people, the rescue workers, to be with them, those that have lost everything. Lord, just guide this country and give us wisdom and direction for how to help and become a better citizen to take care of our neighbors. And Lord, just guide us and be with us. And I pray for this city and our direction. And we give you all the praise and glory. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Before we get started, I'm going to ask Chief Compton if he'd come up to the podium. We have some fire department promotions.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Recently, we had promotions for the captain's position and the engineer's position. It's been several years since we promoted anybody to the captain's position, and Orion Stedman is here tonight to receive his badge and helmet. Part of the promotional process for captain is, as Orion can tell you, it's not one of the easiest tests you take. You start off with writing a term paper a week before your test. Now, the term paper was on residential sprinkler systems. We take that term paper, and then he has a 12 to 15-minute public speaking project, and all this is graded by 3 outside evaluators from neighboring departments. And in addition to that, there's a written test, a fire scene scenario that, with the help of Lynn Morgan and Captain Travis Liska, is a very difficult house to extinguish at times. If you don't do the right thing at the right time, you're not going to put the fire out. So, it is with great pleasure. Orion, would you come up? Orion passed with flying colors. Step right over here. Who do you want? Oh, thank you. Okay.
Congratulations.
With Orion's promotion to captain, that frees up an engineer's position, and I'm happy to report that Chase McChesney is in line to take that position. Chase, will you come up? Chase was recently in your water bill for a note. Mine went up by $4 with his picture in there. As mentioned before, with our other promotions to engineer, this test is also extremely difficult. It has to do with the operations of our equipment, and a written test that specifically deals with our equipment and the operations of. And I'm sure it's one that Chase won't ever want to take again. So, Chase, the mayor has your badge. And for the record, you'd think 6 weeks ago when I started trying to find Chase's helmet would be a real easy task. So he's kind of getting a loaner. It's got a few war scars on it, but we will get him a new one in the coming weeks.
I also happened to be in a public venue one day where a man fell and was unconscious with no pulse. Chase happened to be right behind me, and he jumped on and started doing CPR immediately. And actually, they were able to get a pulse back, and it was a great thing to see Chase work not only in our community, but some of it happened out just in the public, shorts and a t-shirt, trying to save somebody's life.
And my wife is there to help out too, so she did a good job for us.
So thank you both.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Well done.
Thank you all for coming. Okay, we'll move on to citizen participation. Anyone wishing to speak to anything not on the agenda, please step to the podium, state your name, your address, and you'll have 5 minutes.
Good evening. My name is Annie Buchanan, and I represent Republic Community Action Team. With me is Scott Allen. He's part of Community Partnership of the Ozarks, and we are actually an organization. We are working on our 501c3, and our whole organization is to bring awareness to families who are in need. I know there's a lot of great groups here that we want to team up with and be a center hub for them that we can provide resources with. RCAT was actually able to team up and become a coalition under Community Partnership of the Ozarks, and I'm going to let Scott address that. Another really great thing we wanted to address is Boys and Girls Club is looking at Republic. We actually have a meeting with their executive director on Friday. They're very eager to get out here. We had a public meeting, or closed door meeting with some of our members last Monday. So great things are happening. I know it's my passion as a school teacher to be able to help my families and my students. We all have seen students running the streets and trying to get them off the streets and trying to get some resources to help them. So hopefully through RCAT and teaming up with Community Partnership, and I'm going to let Scott talk to that just a little bit, but they're eager to be out here. They're excited. We're glad to be on board with them. So I'm going to turn it over to Scott real quick.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mayor Ussery, council members, thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here. We found out about Annie through another coalition that I work with, and my role with Community Partnership is community capacity building and helping community members that are interested in doing great things in their communities. So I reached out to Annie, and she happened to be at the mayor's office when we connected. And one thing led to another, and now here we are. She's built a great coalition, a great supporting group of community members, and I think that some awesome things are going to happen out here. Our role is to support them in the activities that they'd like to do as far as prevention-type activities, substance abuse prevention, substance use prevention activities in this area. But with that, we bring some other capacity-building issues. One of those things is parenting programs and other things to help kids grow up to be safe and strong. So that's our role, is strictly being supportive of the activities that she's got going on in your community, and hopefully with your support and God's will, we'll see some great things going on out here. We appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you both for coming.
Thank you.
Can we get you the addresses, please? I'm sorry. Can you give an address for you and Annie?
Sure. It's 330 North Jefferson in Springfield, 65803.
All right.
And it's 1998 Terrell Valley Drive, and that's Republic. So,
Okay.
all right. Thank you,
Thank you
guys.
both
Have a
for
good
coming.
evening.
Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to speak to anything not on the agenda, please step to the podium, state your name and address, and you'll have 5 minutes. Seeing none, citizen participation is closed. Need a motion and a second for approval of the consent agenda.
Motion. Second.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries 7-0. On to the commission and committee schedules. Just as of note, the next council meeting will be September 19th, followed by the next one after that will be October 3rd, 2017. Moving on to old business and tabled items. I need a motion and a second for the second reading of bill number 17-29.
Motion. Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Ms. Brenda?
An ordinance of the City Council of the City of Republic, Missouri, approving amending the zoning code and official map by changing the classification of approximately 0.41 acres owned by George Carden located at 412 U.S. Highway 60 West.
Okay, I need a motion and a second for final passage of Bill number 17-29.
Motion.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Mr. Tyson, would you give us a brief overview, please?
Sure. This application proposes to rezone approximately .41 acres from the R1M district to the C1 district, which is medium-density, single-family going to local commercial. The site presently contains a single-family dwelling, which will be allowed to continue to be used for residential purposes until such time as the use changes to be a commercial use, or until such time as that residential use is abandoned for 12 months or longer. The site does enjoy immediate access to water and sanitary sewer facilities, both of which are capable of supporting local commercial uses. The site enjoys transportation access that is suitable for local commercial traffic. The proposed zoning is compatible with surrounding development and the general trend of development in the general vicinity. It is also conforming to our adopted future land use plan, which does recommend local commercial uses as the appropriate future use of this particular site. Local commercial use can also be adequately served by other public services, including public safety. The Planning and Zoning Commission unanimously recommended approval of this application, and staff is also recommending approval.
Okay, any questions for Mr. Tyson? Comments, concerns? Seeing none, roll call vote.
Councilmember Duran. Aye. Councilmember Mendez.
Aye.
Councilmember Dykeman.
Aye.
Councilmember Brashears.
Aye.
Councilmember Jones.
Aye.
Councilmember Wilson.
Aye.
Councilmember Self.
Aye.
Motion carries 7-0. Okay, moving on, need a motion and a second for the second reading of Bill number 17-30.
Motion. Second.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries 7-0, Ms. Brenda.
An ordinance of the City Council of the City of Republic, Missouri, approving amending the zoning code and official map by changing the classification of approximately 1.80 acres owned by Terry McConnell, located at 5976 West Farm Road, 164.
Thank you. I need a motion and a second for final passage of Bill number 17-30.
Motion.
Have a motion and a second. Mr. Tyson?
This application proposes to rezone approximately 1.8 acres of a larger tract of land located at 5976 West Farm Road 164 from the agricultural zoning district into the light industrial N1 zoning district. The site presently appears to contain land uses and structures that are permitted within the ag district. The site has immediate access to sanitary sewer that is of a capacity that can support light industrial development. However, it does not have immediate access to municipal water service. The closest water service is located approximately 700 feet west of the site. The city does not presently have any immediate plans nor programmed funds to extend this water infrastructure. Therefore, any development would necessitate that the water main be extended at the cost of the developer. The site enjoys transportation access that can support light industrial development at such a small scale as 1.8 acres. I pointed out last time that Farm Road 164 is presently just an unimproved farm road. I believe it can support the light industrial traffic generated from such a small scale, but improvement will become necessary at some point in the future before a larger scale or any other rezones could probably be considered. MoDOT is currently constructing turning lane improvements that will benefit this site and improve safety. The proposed zoning is compatible with surrounding land uses and the general development trend in the vicinity. The proposed zoning is also conforming to the future land use plan that the city has adopted, which does recommend light industrial uses as being the appropriate future use at this location. The Planning and Zoning Commission unanimously recommended approval of this application, and staff is also recommending approval.
Okay, any questions, comments, concerns for Mr. Tyson? Seeing none, roll call vote.
Councilmember Self.
Aye.
Councilmember Wilson.
Aye.
Councilmember Jones.
Aye.
Councilmember Brashears.
Aye.
Councilmember Dykeman.
Aye.
Councilmember Mendez.
Aye.
Councilmember Duran. Aye.
Motion carries 7-0. Need a motion and a second for the second reading of Bill number 17-31.
Motion.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries 7-0.
An ordinance of the City Council of the City of Republic, Missouri, authorizing the execution of an amendment to to an intergovernmental agreement between the city and Greene County to allow the Greene County Collector to collect delinquent nuisance abatement costs by placing said costs on real property tax bills.
Need a motion and a second for final passage of Bill number 17-31.
Motion. Second.
Have a motion and a second, Mr. Tyson.
In 1998, the City of Republic entered into an intergovernmental agreement with Greene County for the collection of real estate taxes. What you have before you this evening is an amendment to that agreement that would allow the collector's office to also collect, in addition to those real estate property taxes, any delinquent or uncollected charges that the city has pending against the property owner for the abatement of any public nuisances on that property. So how the process will work is, as we deem it necessary, the city will go and use taxpayer dollars to abate a public nuisance at a property if we cannot get the property owner to do it, and it's of such a serious situation that we need to do it, and then we will charge the property owner for those costs to do that abatement. Sometimes, as you can imagine, it's difficult to collect on that bill. In this case, we will have a much greater degree of confidence in collecting those charges if we can place it on their tax bill so that it becomes a sort of lien on the property, and I believe we will be much more successful moving forward in collecting those charges if we enter into this agreement. The agreement has already been approved by the Greene County Commission and awaits your consideration this evening.
Okay, any questions, comments, concerns for Mr. Tyson? Seeing none, roll call vote.
Councilmember Duran. Aye. Councilmember Mendez.
Aye.
Councilmember Dykeman.
Aye.
Councilmember Brashears.
Aye.
Councilmember Jones.
Aye.
Councilmember Wilson.
Aye.
Councilmember Self.
Aye.
Motion carries 7-0. Thank you, Mr. Tyson. On to new business. Need a motion and a second for the first reading of Bill number 17-33.
Motion. Second.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries 7-0.
An ordinance of the City Council of the City of Republic, Missouri, amending the Municipal Code of Republic, Chapter 600, Alcoholic Beverages, Section 600.050, Application for License and Renewal, by removing the requirement for liquor license applicants to post a $1,000 bond.
Ms. Brenda, do you have anything further to go along with that for discussion for council?
The only thing is, the reason we're doing this, we took a look at it. I had asked Rhonda Lusader to look over it and see if there was any problem if we took this out, and she looked and did not find anything. The $1,000 bond was posted so that if the business owner didn't obey the liquor laws, that we could call in the bond on that. However, with attorney fees, a $1,000 bond really wouldn't pay for anything. So we decided that issuing a ticket would do the same thing. So anyway, we're recommending that is dropped from our code.
Anybody have any questions, comments, or concerns from council?
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Cameron?
So I appreciate Brenda bringing this up. As she did a very good job of stating, this was brought up in a discussion in our management team meeting, and asking the question, why do we do this? And it goes back to our process improvements. If we can't explain why we're collecting something, it needs to be evaluated. And to make it a little bit easier, I'm not saying we're going to make liquor licenses easier, because there'll be some that say, don't, but if we're having $1,000 bonds and you got all these bonds laying around at the city that you got to show up on your books and track, and you're not tracking them, and $1,000, it's kind of an arbitrary number. It's removing one of the processes that we're not trying to manage, because on the accounting side, you got to track that $1,000 somewhere and making sure you have some sort of release of that bond and finding some stuff of that nature. So I think it's important that we find a way to eliminate those. If we got it on the book, if we have it as one of our ordinances, we need to know why it's on there. And if we're not utilizing it, or we don't know why we're utilizing it, staff is evaluating it. So again, it's just more of the same. We're trying to improve our processes. And Brenda, thank you for bringing it up and working to get a resolution.
And the point of the bond is usually to secure something, in which case we're not doing this. We're allowing law enforcement and the courts to do their job.
That's correct.
Okay. Mr. Wilson?
Got a question. For clarification, the people that have paid the bond, will they be refunded now?
Mr. Mayor,
Go ahead, Mr. Chairman.
I would recommend that those be refunded, because there's no reason for us to be maintaining paperwork. Because in the event that we need to reconcile those accounts and get those up so that they can get their bond or would be released of that obligation. Because like Brenda said, there's no reason to have the bond when law enforcement and even the alcohol board would revoke their license in most situations if they're in violation. So it's a great question that we need to refund or return the bond.
So, Ms. Hawkins, would that, since that was taken under an ordinance, would that require council action to refund the money?
I would think so, yes.
So we would just need to place it as an item on the agenda if this is passed in the second reading to go forward with that.
No, that can all be done with one ordinance, correct? Everyone affected?
We can add it to this ordinance for the second reading.
I
We
would
make
think
an
so.
amendment to
Yes,
this
you'd have to.
ordinance now.
You can't, okay.
It's a valid question.
Would you like to, he's talking about possibly making an amendment to the ordinance now?
It would save doing it later.
It would. We would have to get the right language in place for the refund. But as long as we're clear that anyone who paid a bond in connection with the liquor license be refunded in connection with repeal of Section B, I think we'd be okay.
Actually, we only have one business that has actually paid cash for the bond. Everyone else is all the others are, I have a bond paper. So only
Okay.
one has paid the $1,000 cash bond.
Okay. So,
Semantics. It's the same thing. It's a piece of paper and cash, so I think it is the same thing.
So
I
still
think
in order, do you have a motion to amend the bill?
Yeah, I would make a motion to amend.
So the motion to amend is that anyone who's had a bond.
Anybody that's paid in, the money will be refunded.
Okay.
And you can word it however it's supposed to be.
be it cash or a paper instrument.
okay.
Right.
Yes.
So I have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions? The amendment to that motion, or the motion for that amendment carries 7-0. Okay, moving on. I need a motion and a second for the first reading of bill number 17-34.
Motion.
Second. Have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries 7-0. Ms. Brenda?
An ordinance of the City Council of the City of Republic, Missouri, declaring the results, of the municipal election held on the 8th day of August 2017.
Hey, Ms. Brenda, you have some information
Yeah.
going with that? I know you're having a little bit of a hard time with your voice.
This is a certification from both the Greene County and the Christian County clerks for the election that was held in August. And we would ask for the emergency passage due to us being able to get it to the Department of Revenue so that we can be sure and collect the funds from the other one sunsetting in October.
Okay.
So just to be clear, the emergency measure is requested due to issues of public welfare. Okay.
Okay, do I have a motion and a second for request for passage as an emergency measure?
Motion.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions? That motion carries 7-0. Now I need a motion and a second for final passage of bill number 17-34.
Motion.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Are there any other questions before we move on to a roll call vote? Seeing none, roll call vote.
Councilmember Self,
Aye.
Councilmember Wilson,
Aye.
Councilmember Jones,
Aye.
Councilmember Brashears,
Aye.
Councilmember Dykeman,
Aye.
Councilmember Mendez,
Aye.
Councilmember Duran,
Aye.
And that motion carries 7-0. Item Exhibit G was removed from the agenda. There's some more background information we need to gather before we cover that item. So we will move on to, need a motion and a second for the first reading of bill number 17-36.
Motion.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries 7-0.
An ordinance of the City Council of the City of Republic, Missouri, amending the Municipal Code of Republic, Chapter 110, Administration Policies, by enacting a new Article 8, Authority to Enter into Contracts Policy.
Mr. Cameron?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. What this is, if you recall, we changed the purchasing policy to reflect the $25,000 limit. What that did not correct is while I gave the authority to do that, it still brought us bringing budgeted items back to council without approving the contract. So what this is doing is the second instrument that comes along that says that we can initiate contracts. We'll still be reporting projects that we're doing that are within the budget, they're over a certain amount in compliance with the purchasing policy. This allows us to enter contracts. It does not require us to come back to council for the approval of the contract, as long as it's gone through attorney review and it does not exceed $25,000. So you approved a purchasing policy to move forward, but it still brings those contracts back to council, even if it's for $5,000 or $6,000. So we needed to clean up this language as well, and so that was one of the things we found, that even though we purchased something, there will still be a contract. This would eliminate the need to bring contracts for approval to the council. Again, it would still be reported as part of the purchasing policy to report any purchases and contracts to the council at the next meeting. So it still follows the same purchasing protocol that we have that we just recently amended. But this addresses it for contracts now as well. So they should not be coming to council other than in your normal admin reports.
Any questions, comments, concerns for Mr. Cameron? Seeing none, remember this is, go ahead, sir.
So is it just an assumption that it'll be under review of council?
Just
The
to
contract?
and the council would have be able to.
I mean, legal counsel.
Yeah. Oh, number one, I wouldn't. I won't even sign an admin policy that I've drafted unless council's their name is on the bottom of it. So every contract, I don't care what it is, has got to go through legal review. It goes through legal, and sometimes it's HR. But this situation would go through legal, finance, and I'm the final signature.
I just didn't know if it needed to be in.
No,
this.
it'll be in
if it's
by
implied
policy.
by your- okay,
Yeah,
gotcha.
this is just saying that it's okay, but there'll be an internal control that does not allow me just to, or any administrator, to just pencil, I don't want to use the word pencil it, but just basically put their name to any contract that says, okay, it's good. It needs to have legal review, and it's agreed upon.
Thank you.
And all that, one last point of clarification, all that would be kept on track in the legal assistance file that could be viewed at any time by the council or by the community as well.
Any other questions, comments, or concerns for Mr. Cameron? Okay, remember this is first read, so if you have any questions, please get with Mr. Cameron.
Yes.
On to resolutions. Resolution number 17-R-73, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Republic, Missouri, awarding a bid for 2017 road striping and authorizing the execution of a contract agreement. Need a motion and a second?
Motion.
Second.
Have a motion and a second, Mr. Cameron?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm excited to present this one to the council. This has been a kind of a small pet peeve. As you drive around Republic, there are a number of streets, and this is, if this could be $100,000, I don't want to sound like we're just throwing money at it, but there's a lot of streets that need to be striped, a lot of crosswalks need to be. So I've asked for as many things that could be done, that we're not just completely blowing out the budget. So we put a pretty robust group of areas together that are outlined there to address striping in the area. You go down Hines at Elm, Lynn, sorry, I'm still learning my street names, but I do have a house in Republic now, or in the area. I've heard about it, so.
It's a matter of record.
So basically, Hines Street from Franklin to US 60 and Lynn Street from Hines to Elm, including the intersection at Elm. Is that right?
That's correct. So there's a number of improvements, but once it first got brought to me, I was like, I want it bigger. I want more than, we need to add to it. And so I look forward to next year, we'll do the next, we need to get the striping done. So if it's not on there, please let me know. And we're asking the community if there's other areas that they're working on. Please bear with us. It's about, we need to get caught up on them. But the striping projects is something that look forward to getting taken care of. So
Thank you, sir. Any questions, comments, concerns for Mr. Cameron? Seeing none, I thank you very much. This is something that we get contacted about by citizens about the striping, and it goes back to the beautification of the city, and it's a big help. So, if there's no other questions, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries 7-0. Resolution number 17-R-74. A resolution of the City Council of the City of Republic, Missouri, authorizing execution of a managed print service agreement with Copy Products Incorporated in conjunction with U.S. Bank Equipment Finance. I need a motion in a second.
Motion.
Second.
A motion in a second, Mr. Cameron.
Sorry,
I'm sorry, Mr. Tyson.
Currently, the city owns and/or leases a variety of different copier machines all across the functional departments of the city. These various arrangements, the leases all sometimes have different terms. Everybody's paying different per copy service rates, and they'll have different contracts. It's all very, from an administrative standpoint, it's somewhat of a nightmare to try to put together what is going on with our copiers. I think the reason for this initially, having this arrangement, was at one point the city thought it may be more cost-effective to purchase copiers and then get as much life out of them as possible before you have them replaced. But I think over time we have learned that that's just simply not the case. And so as a result, the city is currently upside down in a few of our pieces of equipment. And what I mean by upside down is we're paying more for the machine than it's worth. And the reason for that is service rates escalate over time. So, like I said, I think the idea was we would save money if we just bought them and kept them. But because the service rates continue to escalate the older that piece of equipment gets, it's actually much more expensive to do that. So what we're proposing to do here is to consolidate into one managed print service agreement with Copy Products all of our pieces of equipment. They will all have the same lease term. We will go ahead and be replacing several copiers. We'll be repackaging the leases on the ones that we currently have under lease. And then every piece of equipment will have the same per copy service rate. There will just be one bill that comes in every month. And so from an administrative standpoint, there will be much less burden, and there will be savings there on staff. We will save money per month on the lease and also on the per copy service rates. So the cost savings amount to about $6,000 annually. And then on top of that, we'll be in a position to have these copiers refreshed every 5 years so that we're not stuck using inefficient equipment over time. So for all of those reasons, staff believed it was the right thing to do to go ahead and propose that we enter into this contract with Copy Products. This is, the pricing that you see here is a part of a cooperative purchasing agreement, which under the recently adopted purchasing policy is an acceptable method. So if you're wondering, did we go out to bid? We did not. This is a cooperative purchasing, or what is sometimes referred to as the state contract. And we recommend approval. Thank you.
Any questions, comments, or concerns for Mr. Tyson?
Obviously, this includes service and support.
It does. Yeah. The city will only be responsible for paper, staples, and I forget what else, hole punch or something.
Big deal.
Mr. Dyke?
Yes, just a question on the proposed where you've got the police department records in red. What's the...
We added that machine at the very tail end. So we had come to an arrangement, and then the police department had a need in their records division, so it was PS. So that's why it's red. We just added it last week.
Thank you.
Any other questions, comments, or concerns for Mr. Tyson? All right.
Mr. Mayor, I want to make one point. Sorry.
Go ahead.
I'm trying to get the camera to work. Why Garrett, the Community Development Director, is working on this is because this, again, by a lot of our meetings, questions are brought up, inefficiencies are found by having collaboration and discussion. So he just needs a copier. Just a simple discussion And in that discussion, you find out some people have been buying theirs, some people have a lease. So you got a myriad of ways the city, with the term growing together, is working completely not in conjunction. So I love what I see our community development director taking on the initiative and taking on the project of bringing everybody together to save the citizens money, but to find one method and one process to improve it. So Garrett, great job on the work, but it's something that's good just for the overall. It eliminates those wasted steps. Lean, it's kind of those areas where you're constantly trying to reduce waste and where everybody's working on their own copy or doing their own thing. It's one service group, and I appreciate the work and that you took the lead to get it done. So, great job.
Absolutely.
You're welcome, thank you.
Any other questions, comments, concerns? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries 7-0. Thank you, Mr. Tyson. Resolution number 17-R-75, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Republic, Missouri, authorizing the acceptance of the bid from Windwater from Drury Lane Water Line and, go ahead and finish that off. Need a motion in a second?
Motion.
Second. Have a motion in a second, Mr. Cameron.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As you know, we're working on the Garden Business Park roadway construction. This is the purchase of materials for our crews to install the water line for that project. And what you have is there's also an email that Jason Davis put together. There was a discrepancy in the bid tab or bid tabulation. And so he's written an email that should be in front of you to discuss what that is. But after discussion and calculating it, whatever submitted in the sealed bids is the number that's there. So there was errors in that work, but still Windwater Works came out to be the low bid. And so we are recommending approval for them for $46,263.72. And I'll take any questions. We are recommending approval for the project.
Any questions for the council? Comments, concerns? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries 7-0. We have no appointments or commissions. We will go on to reports from staff. Mr. Cameron.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First of all, Deborah Maltmus is here with the Maltmus Law Firm. I just want to thank you for your quick availability and just on the phone when Ron is in Alaska. And so, but I also, as we begin to work and navigate into a transition with legal counsel, we have Deborah working with us and her firm to support that. Ron can only work 20 hours a week. So Deborah's going to be covering, or her firm will be handling things that we have, our staff needs. And so we'll negotiate through that. And then Ben McBride, I believe you'll have an opportunity to meet at some point. We'll also be handling the prosecuting attorney side effects. And so we've posted a position for city attorney. I appreciate the quick turnaround and your presence and your availability tonight as we move forward. And to Mr. McBride and Mayor, I appreciate your assistance with that. And to Ron for his willingness to come back and assist on short notice as well. So so one thing that I'll be reporting tonight too is I will be executing an agreement with the Maltmus Law Firm for a not to exceed amount of $15,000, basically that allows us to move in that direction. But it'll be a not to exceed amount for interim events. If we have to change that, then I'll bring that information to council. But that's kind of helps give her some assurance that she's getting paid for tonight, because I appreciate that she's here without any type of instrument, because she has done work for the city in the past. And when I called Ron, it was without hesitation. He said, you need to call Deborah Maltmus. So she called me back within an hour. I think by 11 o'clock, we had the legal counsel for all areas covered. So I appreciate Deborah and the mayor and Ron and Ben and everyone that was involved. So one area that I want to bring up that's been talked about a lot that I clarified with staff, and I sent out an all-city email. I've seen some posts on our Facebook page related to the recycling center. And I want to talk about the recycling center. We were notified that the recycling center was going to be shut down. Mark Industries was not going to take care of recycling. There was a liability issue on their insurance policy. It was their property on the recycling site that we have. What was presented to us, or what was being done, was that the recycling center would be reopened hopefully by September. When they went to work with the recycling companies, there's two of them, they received a bid to haul that off. So instead of not only just paying $15,000 to $20,000 to build a pad to start the recycling program, it was also going to cost somewhere from $15,000 to $20,000 a year out of the general fund to haul it off. It's something, number one, we haven't budgeted for, and if you recall, we had a $13 surplus to start it. So then all of a sudden, you're sitting there going, how are we going to fund dealing with that? So we pulled off of the project saying, we need to have a discussion in our budget of how to address it. And one thing that I would encourage the community and everyone to look into is that you actually have the opportunity to contact your current provider. Like most people do not know this, and this is something we're going to release to the community, is that you have the green recycle bin that you can pay $5 a month, that they will actually bring it to your curb, and there's twice a month recycling at your home. But not many people know that that service is offered here in the Republic already. So there are services that are available to the community that they could utilize, but in the interim, we've asked for people to utilize the Springfield Center that's just outside of town, or to contact their local recycle or their waste hauler that they get their roll cart from to get a roll cart in front of their home. And so until we could have a discussion regarding that and the cost associated with it, originally you think it's going to be just $10,000, starts raising up into the $25,000, $30,000, $40,000, and $50,000 range. Now you're starting to get into areas where it's like we need to discuss that rather than just say we're going to take that on. Because who's going to maintain it? Are we going to have staff to watch over it and take care of it? None of that was brought up or discussed originally when we had the discussion that they were closing down. So that is why it is not reopened as of September 1st. And I can answer any questions, or if there's a desire to move on that, build it, put staff to it, I'll entertain it. But I would, I guess we'll save that for the council discussion. Also in your packet is the TSI survey, as we discussed when we would switch to TSI, that we would conduct surveys from time to time just to see how things are going with our staff. That's outlined in your admin report. Garut. During the fall festival, I was not aware of it, but I did receive several calls of there was a odorous situation during the fall festival. And so staff is looking into what that is, or could potentially be a septic situation that I've never could imagine that it would, why it's only happened this one time, but obviously it was pretty bad. We heard your complaints, even though I don't know if the camera's working or not. This still not working. We heard the complaints, and so we were working on it, trying to figure out what it is to make sure that we avoid it next year. It could just be standing water from all the rain, but from what I understand, it smelled like sewer, so we're working on it. Thank you for all the people and the staff that have worked on the financial software to evaluate what that is and get it something out to be seen a recommendation sometime, or at least a proposal. But I understand from staff, so I appreciate Jason and Jim, your investment. It means a lot to the employees to see that you're engaged and interested in that, and that you're seeing that there's a lot of time that they spend on a lot of overkill and just some pretty antiquated processes. But interviews for the Public Works Director will begin next week. In the interim, I'm serving as the Public Works Director. I'll be handling those duties in addition to the day-to-day, as you can tell with the agenda. But I wish David the best in his endeavors. He's done, I believe, 13 years with the City of Republic, so we wish him well. And so, what else do I got? I guess that's all I have, other than the camera's not working, but that's all I have. But I just wanted to clarify for the community what the recycling, before we posted that, I wanted to send that out so everyone can understand where the status of that is.
Mr. Davis, Water Superintendent.
Oh, yes, and congratulations to Jason Davis, as he's been promoted to the Water Superintendent position. So he's an internal individual as our applicant that is going to be kind of promoted from within, but very exciting to see staff taking in the mission, vision, and values and learning that and applying that. And so I think Jason will do an outstanding job in that role, and that's all I have.
Thank you. I want to thank the fire chief and the police chief again tonight. It's always great when we get to have those promotions here. It's times like these that remind us exactly why we should be so appreciative when you look in Houston. You look at the impending fate of those in the path of Irma if it continues, and we all pray that it takes a shift to the north and east and gets away from the coast. But we don't say thank you enough for what you guys do, and it takes something like that for us to realize. So thank you very much. Very happy to have been a part of this promotion ceremony tonight. The striping, I think that I'm so glad that we got creative with that instead of just striping a small part of Hines Street, that we found a way, or well, you found a way to, the staff has found a way to make that an impression on people. So you see that two of the busiest roads in this town are getting a facelift, and they're going to look good. And I've personally had a lot of citizens contact me about those, and it just doesn't look good. You couldn't even see the stripes anymore. So I'm glad that we're moving forward with that. I'm sure a lot of other people will too. It is so exciting since April to think of all the ways staff has found to save money for the city. Tonight is a microcosm of that, with the $6,000 of projected savings by moving the way you did, or the way you talked about, Garrett, with doing that. And that's just, the tip of the iceberg when you talk about what we're doing with Stiefel and what we're looking at, what our workshop was on tonight. And being able to overall save the city of Republic, the citizens of Republic, $942,000. That is huge. That is just money that the citizens will never have to pay. I know I said that in the workshop, but I can't get over that. That is such a huge amount of money, and everybody in here should be very proud of where we're going as a city, especially when we can look a citizen in the eye and say, we're doing something. We're saving you a lot of money, and we're paying off debt that this city owes much quicker. I believe I encompassed those two things together, so on to reports from council. Mr. Self.
Just echo most of that. You covered almost all of my material there. So anyway, anytime that we can have efficiencies, even with Brenda bringing up the, I know that the camera's not working right now, but even that, when it is working, it helps her out. The whole 6,000 that Garrett found, Brenda bringing up the liquor license. I mean, it just keeps rolling, and that snowball gets bigger and bigger. And at the end of it, I've said this in the past, but that end product of what our citizens see and what investors see and what developers see, and someone wants to live here, someone wants to put their business here. All of that goes into the greater good in the end product. So, thank you to everyone.
Absolutely. Mr. Wilson?
Well, I'd like to echo the striping because those places really need it. Also, the walkway from Main to the library is finished, I believe, almost. And it's looking good. However, I don't know if the signs belong to the city or the company that built the walkway, but there's a sign on Boston Lane, and there's one or two on 174. Watch for trucks moving in and out of the highway. So those should probably be taken down.
We'll take care of it. Thank you, sir. Mr. Jones?
Just a lot of good momentum. Very exciting. I spend a fair amount of time over at the community center and the walking track and all that area. I bump into Chief Compton quite regularly walking his dog. But I get questioned a lot by people over there, either in my neighborhood, such just asking about the riding arena and any proposed plans or what's happening with that, since it's been, I don't have any good answers for them. I don't know if you can share anything with them at this point or what.
Mr. Mayor. So thank you for the question. It's coming down. What was originally supposed to happen with the riding club was the members that had it before believed they had a contractor, and I don't want to speak completely out of turn, but they had a contractor that they could do it themselves. And so Jared has been waiting and working with them to do that. What he's doing now is basically assembling our own staff and basically going to disassemble that and vacate that property and clear it off completely and basically set that equipment aside for anything that the riding club or the former riding club, it's not even an actual body anymore, but it will actually be coming down. So I know the sooner that it can be. Jared wanted to he wanted to be cognizant of the fact of who built it and put it up and allowed them the opportunity to take it down, but now we're to the point that it's dissolved, it's no longer there, they've agreed to vacate their agreement. So the plan is to bring it down. And tomorrow, so not just to create, it's not an excuse, but tomorrow we have our meeting, our project status report. That will be one of the projects that will be discussed is where we're at with the Riding Club. And I do believe, it's not in this report, but it'll be in your next council packet. There will be an update so that you can share. So thank you for bringing that up. But it's a great point. Jared wants it down tomorrow. I'll tell you that.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. Mr. Bashirs?
It really never ceases to amaze me at the activities that the city can put on at such a professional level. I know on the mud run we had a couple of weeks ago, it was unbelievable the number of kids that participated. I believe it was like 800 or close to it. And the hundreds, if not thousands of man hours that different departments of this city put in out there is just amazing. And to go out there and to watch it, the enjoyment that kids had, just fantastic. It's just a real professional thing. One of the things, too, I almost thought about not mentioning that, but I think I will anyway. I had a couple complaints the other day about automobiles on lots. And this particular residence had 21 cars on their property. 21 cars. And after the city looked into it, I think several were removed. And it turned out that 12 were actually legitimate cars based on our code. 12 cars. And these cars are parked in front yards. And I can imagine living next to a house that would have 21 cars or 12 cars or 6 or 8 parked in the front yard. And this isn't just on occasion, it's just about all the time. And I know back, one of the most contentious things we had on council was when we had the trash service brought up, whether or not the city should have one trash service or let people, decide on their own trash service. And it kind of hit the fan, a lot of discussion, and it went right back to where the people had the right, or the choice, to have the trash service they want. But this is a little bit different. When someone's freedom to have as many cars as they want on their lot infringes upon their neighbor, and to the point of lowering your property values, we're talking about making the public, beautification, make it look good. We have people driving through our city, you run across properties that have 18, 20 cars on the front yard. That sends a message, but it's not the message I think that we want. And currently, our code doesn't really address this situation. And it might be something we might want to look into.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Ann?
I'm just going to echo a lot of what everybody else has said. Garrett, great job on finding a way to make things more efficient. I sat with the girls a couple weeks ago with Miss Debbie and Miss Brenda and listened to just how their day went and what they had to do and accounting. And so I know that's going to make a huge difference for Debbie, for everybody. It's going to make a huge difference in correcting that wasted time and those wasted steps that they shouldn't have to take. I just encourage all council members to go and sit with them. Just sit with them for an hour and see what all they go through. It's amazing what they do. So great job, Brenda, on the liquor license. I think that makes complete sense. So that's all I have.
Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Mendez?
Of course, I too have the same sentiments. It's great to see us saving money. It's great to see us become more fiscally responsible. I do want to call out a couple things. The first is it's really neat to see how responsive the city is to even a single citizen complaint. From Groupfield to an email I shared with David about some signage and striping for crosswalk to a single complaint of the highways and needing to mow that. The city is very reactive and very positive. It's a very positive thing to see how attentive we are to the citizens and to their needs. So thank you. Thank you for everybody that does that. That's huge. Also, over the last 2 weeks, Mr. Dykeman and I have had an opportunity to participate in some reviews of different software products for the city. And this isn't just financial. This has the potential to cover multiple departments and create efficiencies that are pretty amazing, both with communication cross-departmentally as well as transparency opportunities for citizens. From as far as salaries all the way down to what's going on in each department, to automated billing, to payment options for citizens. I just want to say my hat's off to Debbie. She really did find a best-of-breed group of software vendors that came prepared to go through the scenarios and things that the city needs. And I'm just excited about, we've got some tough choices ahead of us. Some references that we really need to dig in and understand a little bit more about how they're using it. I learned a lot. I learned a lot about utility billing, about all of the different things that the finance department's faced with, both with their current software platform, the challenges that they're up against. It's crazy how much time they're having to spend just getting through their day-to-day processes. I mean, they're paying overtime to be able to do the city's business. So it's going to have a significant impact. I'm honored to be a part of it, and really appreciate all Debbie's doing to drive this, and even seeing the level of engagement of the staff that was there representing the different departments. They have a very positive outlook on this. It's just a good deal. There were no arms crossed. Change was something everybody was looking for. There were a lot of wows. There was just a lot of energy in the room. So I just want to say it's awesome. And hats off to Debbie for pulling that together. And Chief, on the fire trucks, $45,000. Thank you. That's huge. Every little bit counts. So there you go.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Dykeman.
Well, of course, I echo everything everybody else has said, but it has been this last 2 weeks of working with Debbie and staff and Jason in these meetings. It has been a big eye-opener for me in seeing, what the city's going through. And there's times they've talked about, this is going to be so much better than what they've got. And I said, well, from what I've seen of what you have, pen and paper is better than what you got. And if we can bring this together and get it through and get it implemented, it's not going to be something that's going to be an overnight thing. It's going to take several months to get it done. But I think the big thing, one of the things that really interested me was for the citizens, is being able to go online, pay their bills, update their own email and everything, to people getting businesses licenses, being able to submit it online. All of that is going to be really exciting, and we're down to a point now of finishing, like I said, our references, and then Debbie and I talked tonight, then our plan is to have a meeting coming up here in the next week or so and kind of get it down to maybe 2 of the prospects, and then those of us that can make a field trip and go actually to the cities, because like her and I talked, I can sit there and talk to somebody on the telephone and they can rave how good it is, but if you're sitting there in front of them and they're doing it, you can see how they look, how they act, as to really, do they really think it's great, or are they just saying what they think they ought to say? And I really, the hours that Debbie and her staff have put in is just unbelievable. And like Jason said, the other staff members, just besides Lisa and Debbie, who head up her departments, they're employees that were there and watched things. I mean, that was, and like Jason said, they were always, staying in tune with what was going on and listening and asking some very good questions. And so I think we're going to come out with a winner on this, and hopefully here before too long we'll be coming back to council with a proposal.
Thank you, Mr. Dyke. One other thing I wanted to cover is I know we talked in the last meeting about not having the speaker or the presenter cover everything during the second reading. that we would just bring them up for questions, and I apologize. The reason I did that tonight is because we had a 3-week layoff, and I thought it was important for us to get refreshed on those items, rather than just trying to remember from the first read. So, other than that, need a motion and a second to move on to executive session. No further action other than the announcing adjournment by the mayor shall take place after an executive session that is scheduled as the last matter on the agenda, unless otherwise stated on the agenda, or as allowed per RSMO 610.02. And we will be covering RSMO 610.021, real estate acquisition, closed session, closed vote, closed record, and RSMO 610.021.3, hiring, firing, promotion, or disciplining action, personnel, closed session, closed vote, closed record. I would need a motion and a second for executive session.
Motion, second.
I have a motion and a second. Roll call vote.
Councilmember Self,
Aye.
Councilmember Wilson,
Aye.
Councilmember Jones,
Aye.
Councilmember Brashears,
Aye.
Councilmember Dykeman,
Aye.
Councilmember Mendez,
Aye.
Councilmember Duran,
Aye.
Motion carries 7-0. After a 5-minute recess, we will begin executive session.